Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Quarantine Diaries. It's Saturday, May 9th, day 45. Good morning to my good friend. How are you, Ethan? I know, day 45, right?
Day
Ooh.
45. Sorry, everyone. That just took me aback for a moment. I am doing well. Lush is shipping again, so I can resume my usual skincare regime. We're
Oh,
done with the quarantine skincare regime, everyone. Freedom at last.
I've just suddenly, look, I've got to say, I haven't put any makeup, nothing. I literally washed my face, and I've just suddenly looked at the light. Look how shiny I am. Put
You
my
look
powder on
so
the floor. So look,
fresh.
it's true. Pajama Party. Honestly, this is
So
own
fresh.
out for our people. This is as good as it gets.
Yeah,
Funny.
I've been up for a little while because the birds outside decided that this morning was the day they would be awake for the first time in 3 weeks. Just delightful.
Lovely.
But no, it's going pretty well over here. It has been an unusually great set of weather this last 3 weeks here in Christchurch still. It's almost obnoxious. We're still waiting for winter, but I'm okay with that.
No, that's very good. And it's been a big week actually for both of us. So on Monday, our baby boy had a birthday. How
Yes,
does
I
it
turned
feel?
30.
How's your 30s feeling?
Honestly, not at all different from I'm going to say, I spent, and I don't think this will be a surprise to any viewers, I spent the majority of my 20s very hungover. So actually, the beginning of,
All of us spent our
yeah,
20s very
yeah.
hungover.
So the beginning of my 30s are actually feeling a lot better.
Well, happy birthday for Monday. So,
Thank you.
lockdown birthday. And today, I don't know whether you're aware, but today is the
Happy
10th
Mother's
birthday.
Day.
No, that's
Is that
tomorrow.
tomorrow? Oh my
That's
God.
tomorrow. No, today
We're
is
going to get that.
Skeins.com is 10 years old today.
10
9th
years
of May,
old.
9th of May to 2010 is
Really?
was the first order for Skeins.com.
That's crazy.
We went live. It took about 90 minutes to get our first order. And when that first ding came in, honestly, you would have thought all of us had won lotto. We were so excited.
Do you guys have any archival footage we can tack on to the end of this?
That was before the days we even knew how social media worked. So,
Oh,
we've come a long way since then.
look at us now. We're
Oh,
streaming live from 2 locations in New Zealand to all of you at home.
oh, I know. And I had Nathan on earlier this week, and of course in London, and he had these other cameras and doing this. And I said, gosh, look at what we've learned in the time that we've been locked down. I would never have
Seriously.
dreamed of doing anything like that before. So, yeah. So, to that end, if anybody hasn't opened their newsletter, and I don't know why you wouldn't have opened the newsletter I sent out last night, but in case you haven't, and you
Yeah, what
haven't
else have
looked
you
at the
been
Book of
doing?
Face, and you haven't checked us out on Instagram, today, site-wide, 10% off, and that includes all of Outlaw as well. 10% off to celebrate our birthday.
Amazing.
There is a code, capital letters, HB Skeins, and then the digits 10 for 10. So HB Skeins 10 for 10. You have to put that coupon code in to get the 10%. No retrospective. If you forget, we can't do it retrospectively. Our system just won't allow us to do it. So really, really important. I will put the coupon code in the comments for everybody. So it's just for today and tomorrow. So if you feel the need to do some shopping, we've loaded up our order that we got in from you guys actually this week. So we've restocked everything with Outlaw as well.
Perfect.
So there you go. That's what's going on with us. Actually, in the comments, and Delene did this yesterday, and they're just doing it today. On Facebook, the what do they call it? The subtitles that you can turn on, right? In Facebook copes really well with your accent. Doesn't cope so well with mine. Apparently, some of the subtitles are hilarious.
So, I do have a very California accent, as you know from having lived in America. So if it couldn't pick up mine, Zuckerberg has done something wrong. And
yours is very non-Canadian.
No, thankfully, right? Ooh.
Oh, rubbish! Ooh. Every now and then there's a wee wafer whisper, but yes. No, yours isn't particularly. Whereas I have a very pronounced New Zealand accent, so
it slips in and out. But I mostly sound like I live in the valley, which could be worse.
It could be worse. It could be worse.
Yeah, I could sound like I come from like San Bernardino, and that'd be a real situation.
Right. And we've had a busy week. You've had a busy week. I've had a busy week. We'll start with my needles because mine's quite boring, and then we'll get on to yours because yours is always vastly more interesting. Um,
Ooh, it's looking great.
yeah. So it's
Rambler
now down
tunic.
to I'm going hardcore now down here. So I finished all the shaping. I have actually tried it on. I'm nearly there. Like I'm probably now to where I want it to be before I get
Amazing.
to get to the hem. So I'm quite determined now to get this done over the weekend. I was just saying to Deborah before we went live that really happy with the length. I've tried it on. The fit at the top around the
Good.
girls is girls look great.
That's what we're looking
Looks
for.
fantastic. Still a touch clingy around the mummy tummy, but nothing I think like
Wash that
only
shit. Yeah.
yeah, only an absolute wafer of it. So nothing I think a little bit of aggressive blocking won't solve.
You know, I'm a big believer in the magic of blocking. It
Yeah.
solves so many sins.
Yeah, well, and it's actually the fabric itself, whereas the rest of the shaping is spot on. And see, I mean, look, there's plenty of
Oh,
give
so
here.
much
So
spring in it.
yeah, tons of springs. So I'm actually quite I'm really happy. I'm really really happy. So I'm quite determined. I want to get that done now because now that I can see it. You know, you've got the finish line in sight.
Yes.
I'm really determined to get that done, and then I've got this other cowl that I did say earlier in the diaries that I promised I'd do, and I want to get that cast on because it's a perfect little travel movement project.
Oh,
Because
good.
fingers crossed, we might be able to start moving around a little bit very soon, and then of course I want to get started on Goldwing, which is going to be my winter
Oh,
project.
ho.
Ho
There we
ho.
go.
There we go.
So,
So how are you getting on? I see you've got your Yeshu on today, but
so
you
I'm wearing Yishu. Extra texture is finished. If anyone wants to see the final effect, it's on my Instagram account. I stopped traffic. I'm kidding, there was no traffic. But Deb and I braved standing in the middle of the street to take some photos of
they
it. So you
look
can.
great, and it
Thank
looks
you.
so good on.
So comfy.
yeah, and I mean for people that have not met Ethan in person, you are very tall. I mean 6'3".
6'2" and 90% leg.
Yes. As I've often said to people, when my husband said, "Oh, what's he like?" I said, "He's a bit like an antelope
Yes,
or gazelle. He's kind of, he's all leg and
people regularly, I run a lot, and I just because everyone, we've been live for more than 10 minutes, so it's time for me to tell you I do CrossFit. It's the law. Um, so I run quite a bit at CrossFit as well, and they all joke that I'm an antelope,
yeah,
and not in very friendly terms. It's always very angry, negative, like curse you. But I love to run. Got
yeah,
big long legs.
yeah, yeah. Look, he's very good at the CrossFit. Deb and I and Dunedin just sort of sat there with our coffee and our toast, watching you head off to go and do exercise first thing in the morning, while we just sort of sat there going, mm-hmm.
Look, there's nothing better than kicking off a knitting conference and seeing all of the other people from the knitting conference at CrossFit first thing in the morning. Oh, no, wait, that doesn't happen. It's
No, that
just
doesn't
me.
happen. It
It's
doesn't
just
happen.
me.
I know.
So,
Yeah. So that's so anyway. What are you working on? I see you've still got the ribbings.
I
Yeah.
ripped the extra texture off my needles.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to show everyone one of my projects from last week just
Yeah.
to reinforce my method, which is I am a firm believer in swatching.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm working on a design for our Outlaw Yarns.
Let me just
This
see this so
is
everyone can see you better. There we go.
Hi, everybody. This is just a little swatch with some of last year's run of Gothic that I had lazing about in my stash. I
Is
like to
that
use it.
Jekyll?
This is actually Glenarvan.
Oh, Glenarvan. Oh, yum. Which is the one.
Yeah.
So Glenarvan, for those that don't know, is kind of the dark, rich, almost baroque, goldy one. It's quite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite beautiful. So I knit up this little swatch because I'm starting a DK weight, which Bohemia Worsted works great as a DK for garments. Anybody at home who's got some lying around and is looking at patterns.
This is
So
Gothic.
this little swatch is going to become the foundation for I'm going to say the dirty S word, fully seamed garment. So since we talked last week, I got the entire back piece done and calculated with shaping. Now, I like to put markers in the edge of my seamed garments. You can see them hanging out there and there. The reason that I do this is it makes it really easy to line up your seams afterwards. If you place them evenly in both sides, I like to go every 10 rows, right in that very edge stitch or selvage, because I always include a garter selvage stitch in my stuff. You just pound it right out, and then you have a perfectly lined up piece. So since we talked last week, I finished the whole back. I've cast on the front, and so that's one thing.
So what neckline are you looking at doing?
So I'm going to do, this particular one is going to come out initially with 2 neckline options included in the first run of the pattern. So this first one is going to have a slightly lower shaped. So see how high the crew neck on this black t-shirt is? We're going to go with a lower, wider crew neck here.
Yeah.
And the reason being that it is more flattering on more types of bodies to have a slightly more open neck. And should you wish it to be more closed, all you have to do is knit more ribbing inwards, and you do not need to decrease away the ribbing. All you have to do is every 4 centimeters, I know it's a really precise measurement, but seriously, every 4 centimeters, decrease the needle size by 0.25 millimeters, and it will continue to come inwards without any of that nasty puckering around the edges.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is a lower crew to begin with, that has a slighter higher rise in the back neck so that it is more unisex, as our good friends would say from Germany. And it has a lower collar drop, which again will accommodate some of our friends who have more yardage across the chest than I do. And we're also going to have 2 shaping options coming in from the underarm that'll be discussed in the pattern notes for everyone to give you a little bit more free space there. But the second most important thing is we're going to include an optional V-neck. Now, not quite as extreme as the V-neck I'm wearing. You will have some coverage still, but it will give you 2 great options off the hop with this sweater so that you have the ability to choose which one, A, you prefer. Some people are more comfortable in a crew neck versus a V-neck. And which one is going to actually fit your body better, because V-necks are much more universally flattering to more body types, as we all may or may not know, but it is true. Although crew necks have definitely risen up in popularity. But unless you've got really high collarbones and a pretty high trapezius drop here at the back, a crew neck can be tricky to fit.
The other nice thing though with a crew, like doing that big wide crew that you do, see, I'm right into big roll necks at the moment. I really like them. And if you've got a lower crew neck, you can actually have a nice roll neck and have it sort of sitting there, but you can't do it on a high one because it just kind of looks like a turtleneck gone wrong.
It does. It looks like a, I'm going to stop myself. I was going to make a very dirty comment, but it's a little early in the morning, everyone. You can all fill in your own blanks. Now, also, I have my,
ooh, star flanket! Look, wow! You've
done
star
flanket attack.
You were still just finishing the star last week. You've been busy. So
I am in the 5th red stripe here with nostalgia of the stripe section of my star flanket. It is definitely big. It's big rounds, but it is weirdly soothing to knit. Now, I will say, I think all of us who have knit one or more Stephen West pattern can agree. Sometimes our darling Stephen gives suggestions, not so much instructions. He's a beautiful creature, also very long-legged like myself, and sometimes just gets a little lost in the moment and playing with yarn. But the star flanket, which I'm knitting mine in Bohemia worsted, which all of you should too, is absolutely fantastic to knit. He has really clear instructions for making each parallelogram. He has super clear instructions for these striped sections. And if you're looking for a smaller version that includes all of the same techniques, there is also the Starflake shawl, which comes up in 4-ply and is absolutely fantastic to knit. I've made both now, as I'm well on my way to finishing this guy. I just have the brioche section coming up next, which for me is actually quite quick because I love knitting brioche. But I have to say, I have to give him top marks for this one. Absolutely fantastic pattern to work on. Super easy to knit. And I'm using a smaller than usual circular here, which is one thing I wanted to discuss. So you can see how much it's bowing out. It's actually much, much larger than what it appears at the moment. The reason for that is I personally find the smaller circular doesn't affect my gauge very much, but it is easier to move the stitches along on this
Yeah.
smaller one. And the nice thing that it does is if you look at how much downwards it's draping already on this smaller circular, it's already resting on my lap. So I know for all of us that sometimes bigger projects get very heavy and they're really taxing on the shoulder and on the wrist. This one, 90% of it sits on your lap while you work the active stitches on the needle. So I would recommend going for 100 to 120 centimeter cable length on this guy and just letting it live on your lap as you go. And so that's where I'm at. That's my needles at the moment.
It's interesting what you're saying about the cable, because I've just flicked to a 150 cable on this,
Mm-hmm.
which I did purely because I wanted to try it on. And the 150 cable allowed me to try it on without me, pop this camera back, without me losing stitches and things disappearing. But I have been knitting it on the 120 or even 100 actually. And of course, it's so much easier to move those stitches around. And I'm just, I can totally agree with that. It's but what I'm really loving with both the Starflake shawl and the Star Flanket is the ability to actually block some really nice colors. Like you can pick, I mean, like the colors that you've selected there, you've got Erebus, Fog, and Arsenic and Carnival. Is that what you've got so far?
Merlin, Fog, Wreath, and Nostalgia.
And Nostalgia, because you could even stick in something like Troy into there, like instead of the Nostalgia. I mean, wouldn't Troy look amazeballs?
It would. So the plan that we came up with was a more blue toned kit, which is this guy here, and a gray toned base color kit. So people could easily just pop in accent colors. And because Bohemia's range is so flexible and all of the colors and the palette are built to work together, you can literally, and I'm not exaggerating, sub in any pop of color. So the pop of color on mine is, of course, the Nostalgia red stripe.
And imagine the marigold as well with that blue.
Marigold, Enchanted, that beautiful soft pink.
So
and if you wanted to go subtle, like Bone, which is the softest pink in the world, would be incredible. And even if you're a massive Neutrals fan, hello, look at what I'm wearing. Something a little bit different than what you might see in other places would be to go dark with the pop of color and go with Proserpine, which would give you a really interesting effect. So I think that's kind of the thing. A lot of times when we think pop of color, we think bright and bold instead of contrast and different. So I'm really trying to push people with this project, if you're getting into it, to think about it. And it does make a really great sized blanket that I intend to wear like a shawl. I'm fine with who I am.
And also too, it's nice to see that there is a series of patterns now which work really well with solid colors, because for a long time, because of the whole speckling and that sort of thing, you had all of these projects where if you didn't have something like that, you try and substitute in a solid and it just kind of looked meh. Whereas it's so nice to have these geometric colors. And look at you, go on, say it.
So I'm a huge fan of what people like to refer to as commercially dyed yarn. I am not a big fan of hand-dyed yarns. There are definitely some hand dyers out there that do spectacular, beautiful things. There are some here in New Zealand. There are some all over the world. However, I make a lot of garments, and I tend to make big garments that that take multiple skeins of yarn. So for me, even when I was starting out as a garment knitter, which was roughly 8 years ago now, when I really started getting into garment knitting versus accessories, I really found that I couldn't get large enough quantities for my size, because while I don't have a particularly large torso, I do have, you can see my arms disappearing off the shot in every angle. I do have ridiculously long arms. So I was never able to get a sweater quantity in hand-dyed yarns. So I really fell in love with commercially dyed yarns. I think that they are fantastic for the consistency. You can get so much depth out of a commercially dyed yarn. And that's one of the things I frequently hear people talk about when they're talking about something like a hand-dyed yarn, is this depth of color. Well, you know what? If you want really sublime saturation, consistency, and something that works with geometric patterns, which are finally coming back, think the dark one for that, You want a commercially dyed yarn. You're going to get a bolder, more
Mm.
true hue out of a commercially dyed yarn. It's going to be consistent. It means that if you're like me, and I like to make matching outfits, sometimes from head to toe, you've seen it, you're better off with commercially dyed yarns. And when you're doing big, big projects like blankets, or extremely large shawls in a heavier weight, which I love a DK weight shawl. I think they are absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
me too.
Oh, so nice. They're so snuggly. It shows off all the same stitch definition that you would get from a
Mm.
4-ply, but you just end up, and I am a big believer in just taking any of you at home who are wondering about finding DK weight shawl patterns, you just knit the 4-ply
Oh,
version on bigger needles.
thank you. I had that
Um,
question yesterday. Someone asked that question yesterday, and that's, I mean, Aranami. That's, I mean, one of my favourite shawls. I've got a DK Aranami. In fact, I've got two,
totally.
and I can just wrap that, and I love it. In fact, Kathy Rubin, if anyone knows Kathy Rubin, who's the Barbarian Horde, a designer in Australia, Kathy adores bigger, heavier weight shawls, and she will, whenever she designs a shawl, she'll always do it. Or even if she's going to knit someone else's shawl, she'll never knit it in 4-ply. She'll always knit it in a DK weight because, as she said, she wants a shawl to be a shawl, not a, you know. So often you'll see people's shawls, but they're actually really scarves.
Yeah, so as you know, as I like to say, a small shawl is pointless because I need more than one nipple to be warm. Like, don't get me wrong, there's lots of people who love a shawlette. If that is your thing, then please keep ripping into them. We celebrate all types of knitters. It takes all types to make the world go round. However, for myself, I mean, you've seen my shawl selections. The bigger, the better. I
Mm.
like them about 2 meters of a wingspan and a meter deep and made out of a minimum of DK weight yarn. I just think it's the way to go.
Yeah, no, I have to. I'm very fond of a good chunky DK shawl. So today, everyone, Nathan and I have gone and done is we've gone and pulled out some more of our favourite books for our collection because both him and I have quite similar tastes in a lot of things, but we have a
Yes.
very between the two of us, we have lots of books that are the same, but we have some really nice complementary books. And I think talking about geometric stuff just before, you've actually got a magazine. Well, it's sort of a periodical there making, because that is the black and white edition, which, yeah, yeah, let's start with that. I think that's a perfect segue
So
for what we've been talking about.
I'm a big fan of the making books. Full disclosure, several of my friends are featured in this edition. Making is an absolutely fantastic periodical. It's published out of the US, the northeastern US, for anyone who is wondering about geography, because you will see some of that in here. However, this edition was photographed in Shetland, and it features projects entirely done in black and white. Now, as you can see from the outfit I'm wearing, I love black and white. I have made 2 projects, both of these shawls, out of this book already. I have made the Vera Valimaki shawl and the Gudrun Johnston mosaic shawl. There are a myriad of wonderful projects in here, especially for some of our multi-craft individuals. This is an excellent publication to pick up. It always includes sewing and knitting and all sorts of stuff. Now, in this one, there is an incredible quilt pattern. For those of you who quilt, I know many knitters who do. It is by Christine Vejar, who is a quilt designer from the US who does a modern minimalist style of quilting. There are always great small sewing projects as well for pouches, which many times the small sewing projects from making are backpacks or totes that oftentimes carry over into being great things for knitters. For example, the Japanese style linen tote here is another great one. You can whip it up and use it around the house. I know my sister has made 2 because she's that person. There's also even a punch needle project in here for any of you who do rug hooking or punch needle work using that Amy Oxford needle or any of the other brands of it. Now, punch needling is great because I think a lot of people think of punch needling as those tapestries that you used to see on walls, which can be a little much. But if you use a luxurious, beautiful yarn and you punch needle it really densely, you actually get a very rich and decadent fabric that has a great deal of texture to it And the punch needling that you're going to find in making is going to be modern and fresh and a little bit different. There's also always sewing garment projects in here, like this great jacket that has, you bet, pockets. I'm a huge fan of pockets on everything. Um, my friend Casey did contribute a great weaving project for all of you who have an Ashford loom at home and have some yarn sitting around or are looking for a great way to use it. It has the warping instructions and everything always included. Now, once we get past the sewing and making portion, there are also some sit-upon chair pads. There is a knotted rug in here as well. For those of you who remember those old school scrap rugs that you might have had around a batch or something like that when you were younger.
Oh yeah, I love it. Margot's just popped up here saying pockets equal snack holes.
Yes. Oh, totally. Not just snacks, but like you can also really jam a ball of yarn into some of those pockets and like wander around knitting it.
Well, for me now, pockets need to be self-phoneable size, don't they? I mean, if they don't fit a phone in there, what's the point?
Well, I mean, and honestly, my cell phone is the size of a small country, so like they better be big. They don't fit into any of my pants. Now, once you get into the Shetland section of the book, you of course have Gudrun Johnston's beautiful shawl here.
Beautiful.
It is done in mosaic, so all of this complexity that you find in the colorwork section here is just done with slip stitches. And again, this really works with that idea of using graphic, high contrast yarns. So when you're looking at something like black and white, if you're not a black and white knitter, because you wouldn't do that, what you want to do is take a photo of the two colors of yarn that you're going to use next to each other in black and white in your camera. If you can see a big difference between them in that black and white photo, then you're going to get this kind of contrast out of them from the final knitting project. It's a really quick way to check when you're doing simple color work that you're going to be able to see all of that beautiful work you're putting into it. Now, that is, of course, by Mary Jane Mucklestone, who I think is a mutual favorite designer. Her color work is super well known. And the last one that I really want to show off from this guy, because I just think it is, there are 9 different knitting patterns in this particular edition of Making. Super worthwhile. My favorite is Mitchell by Junko Okamoto. Now, Junko is a designer who designs one size only projects. They are always all over complex color work. This one also includes noops and it has horses in it, which I think is really cute. She named it for her friend's son. And I do love the way that they have photographed this as well against a dark background, because oftentimes with lighter colored sweaters, they're not photographed particularly well. But this one is shown in such a great way to show off the graphic detailing of the sweater. So I would highly recommend Making black and white. There are endless projects in it for the whole family. It ranges in sizes from little ones all the way up to adults, from big projects to small. There are mittens and shawls. I have made the quill shawl as well here from Vera Valimaki. It is a spectacular knit. It is really, really graphic and really simple. It's mostly garter stitch and a little bit of lace. And as well, they're just beautiful publications.
Yeah.
While they are technically a periodical, each one feels like a book.
You know what really amazes me with black yarn? So, I mean, I definitely know Deborah's wardrobe falls into this. Mine definitely falls into this. But when you look at the wardrobe, there are always a lot of pieces which are based around black yarn. I mean, I've got loads of black trousers and leggings and tops. And then for me, I'll add sort of pops of color. But often particularly Kiwi women, we're shockers for having loads of black, and yet we very, very rarely knit anything in black. And so often people say to me, oh no, I don't knit in black. Now I've got a shawl which is sitting over there. I could dig it out, but it's another Niada. It's actually the first Niada I ever knitted, and I knitted it in a black twist on twist merino and cashmere because I wanted to have something around here. And you know, it is still my number one worn piece because it goes with everything. And
I'm a big believer in dark colors. I mean, first of all, I couldn't be paler if I tried. So I look great in a piece of dark. I love dark lace. I think that's one of the big underrepresented things in a lot of knitters' wardrobe. Lace is beautiful and cream. I mean, we've all seen it 1,000 times. Congratulations. But lace in dark yarn is stunning to me. I
Yeah.
love the way it looks, especially because you're not usually wearing a lace shawl for warmth. So
Yeah.
you're probably going to have some bare skin, or you're going to be wearing a lighter colored summer dress or something like that. And the really graphic contrast of the dark lace on top of it, or even if it's in the colder months and you're wearing a big lace wrap, you know, throw on a white dress shirt and a black pair of trousers or a skirt, whatever suits your fancy, and a beautiful big dark lace shawl in black or navy or like a Merlot color. And it's going to look stunning. You're
Yeah.
going to be thrilled with the result. And when you're talking about black and dark colors, I think that people forget that it does not actually erase texture or cables. It just makes them more subtle. So
Mm.
when you're up close, when people are right next to you, none of the detail of your project is actually lost. Sure, it is not going to look as great on Instagram, and I'm not going to pretend like it will unless you are a master photographer and own 12 ring lights. And if you do, please let me know. Oh, yeah.
I know, but but you did right. I think, and then one of the other throwbacks I often get goes is I can't knit darker colors because I can't see them. I can't see half the things half the time either. I mean, I haven't. I mean, you and I have taken our glasses off to do this.
Yes.
So yeah. So it's but people are really really funny when it comes to super dark colors, and I'm really quite pleased that there is now a lovely shift back to those geometric colors and geometric shapes because it's nice to have them sort of shine. And I like that your Yeshu that you've got on just looks absolutely stunning. Now, Sue's saying here, not many people can really wear black well, especially when you get older, as it can make you look really washed out and it shows the dark eye bags up. Actually, look, so you are right to a certain extent, absolutely, but that's where often the pops of colour will come in.
Yes.
And also, too, I mean, like I'm one of these people, whereas I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as a bad colour. I mean, I wear all colours. I'm a natural redhead, an augmented one these days, and no colour is off the palette. I mean, a number of people have said, oh, redheads can't wear yellow. Oh, bugger that for a bunch of bollocks. I adore yellow. I wear yellow all the time.
I've seen you wear yellow to great aplomb several times.
And a lot of it is around confidence. If you believe you can't wear it, well, then you can't, because, I mean, you're not carrying it with confidence. And for me, I just, if I love a color, I'll wear it. If I feel that I don't want to wear a lot, like today, I'm wearing a black dress with silver spots.
Yeah.
I'm mixing spots with stripes, cardinal rule number one,
Fantastic.
you're not supposed to do this. But I wanted to put this cardigan on. As I said to Deb, it doesn't come up in the camera. I've not worn this cardigan. I bought this while I was away in February, but it's got sparkles. Look, can you see the little stripy sparkles? And I wanted to wear this because it was, celebratory day for skeins, and I thought I've got to wear my sparkles. But then you throw a pop of colour on over the top. There is and bright lipstick. Well, yeah, exactly. I haven't got bright lipstick on today because it's pajama party, but everyone knows that I'm very fond of a bright lipstick. I think it's about your own. It's your own inner confidence. If you wear it with confidence, nothing goes off the table.
I'm a big believer in dressing for yourself as well. I think a lot of the times all of us get stuck in a little bit of a trap of, oh, well, what is this going to look like to other people on me? Not what is this going to look like to me on me? It held me back from making Yeshu for a large number of years. And in the warmer months, I do wear Yeshu as a one layer with nothing underneath of it. And it shows quite a bit of skin, which you may not think I would be uncomfortable with, but historically I have been. Not a fan of a crop top on myself, definitely not a good look. So it's a big step forward, and I really think dressing for yourself and knowing what you love, you're right, is completely the way to go. Yeah. I love an oatmeal color, and I probably shouldn't wear it because, I am oatmeal colored. But hey, I make it work. I do what I feel.
Well, that's just it. And I think so much of it is around that confidence, isn't it, and what you carry. Now, one of the other books that I think talking about contrasting colours is the capsule that I have here. I've got the full 2015 edition, which has got Olga Barea Khalifian, her design.
So good.
She is so good. And I mean, now she is the girl who designed the Aranami shawl. So
Yeah.
we all know how much I adore that. And she's done a number of others, but the one in here that, just talking about our theme with geometric colours, is this one here,
Jujika.
Jujika, which is this wonderful cowl.
Gorgeous cow. Yes.
And it's, I mean, I can so see that cowl in Bohemia Sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many. So Jujika is fantastic. That Swiss cross motif is beautiful. It's double layered. You knit it up and over the top and join it together.
Yeah.
Knit entirely in the round. I have seen it done in a variety of colors, a dark on dark, a dark bright, a pale. It looks great on every single person I've seen it on, in every single color combination.
Yeah, it's just beautiful, and photographed in here, and hopefully the camera will see it. As you can see, there's the one that was pictured, which was the yellow and the white, but then it also shows it in grey and white. But see, that in black and white, I think would look
it almost gives a little tiny old school houndstoothy vibe to it.
Yeah, it does.
White.
Yeah, it does, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, part of the reason I bought this book was, I mean, that pattern was in there, but what she had used a lot in here were a lot of shelter primarily, but yarns that, because we getting, and especially now, getting yarns from offshore like that are becoming more difficult. We have our Southlander, which is actually quite a good alternative, as is Bandit. I mean, if you're wanting to do Brooklyn tweed and shelter, which is around that DK weight, Bandit is perfect, a really good alternative, and you still get that sort of rustic feel. And I mean, look at that.
The Ebba dress is so beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
Especially where you have like a big palette of colors, like in Southlander, like in Bandit, where you can really build those fades and stuff through them. It's an absolutely fantastic situation with those.
And then the other thing, because with geometric shapes, is this is the one from the cover. This is the Cusp poncho.
Cusp is so fantastic. It has such a cool construction too.
I know, and I mean that, and Bandit. You know, even if you wanted to do the lighter one, would be amazing. But see, that would look, I think, also quite classic. I mean, if you did something darker in that, I mean, as you said, from a photography point of view, they do it in the lighter color, so it looks good. But I can easily see that in a darker shade, and you could have that in a darker, richer shade, and it would be so, whereas that looks very casual, the lighter shades will look very casual, whereas the darker shades I think look really professional. You could actually carry that off as a piece of corporate wear, or it would look amazing.
Or Intrepid, it would look really beautiful. Or even in Rapscallion, like that rich blue toned red would be such a great choice. I think as well, people forget that red can be used as a neutral, which I know sounds insane to some people, but unless it's an orangey or yellow leaning red, a more fire engine situation, if you will, the cooler toned reds function fabulously as a neutral because they go with everything.
Yeah. I had on yesterday my Climb Every Mountain, which is in vintage carmine, which is not quite as rich as the nostalgia that you're knitting with, but it's just, it is, and it's a sweater that I can wear with anything. Like, I can wear it with any color. It will go warm, it will go cool. It's just great. It is.
If you're someone who loves a camel neutral as well, if you've got lots of camel in your wardrobe and khaki, red is one of those things that takes camel and khaki from being a summer and winter shade for me personally. I know I'm crazy. Let's not get into this completely, but I am that person. I do enjoy having a winter and summer wardrobe. I'm fine with who I am. It is a great choice because the red really brings out the depth that comes in a lot of khakis and camels, that if you're pairing them consistently with cooler colors, whites and blues, while it gives you that very, East Coast academic look, it does kind of lose a lot of the depth in them. So I'm a big fan of those combinations. And I should tell everyone straight up, I actually love to layer my knits as well. So I am definitely someone who will wear more than one hand knit at a time, as in more than one jumper at a time. So I actually have a plan to make a really simple 4-ply or fingering weight rolled neck stockinette drop shoulder jersey to wear underneath of this yishu to turn it into a winter garment.
So you really do want to wear that he version of a twin set.
Yeah.
I will buy you the pearls myself, darling.
Okay, I'm super into it.
All right.
I'm
Well,
here to
I mean,
help.
it also makes sense, though. I mean, you know, why? I mean, commercially, if we had
Hmm.
commercial manufactured products like clothing, we would double up.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't we do it with our
Why
hand
wouldn't we with our
knits?
hand knits?
Yeah.
And
No.
you know, it again brings in too, if you have some of those yoked jumpers that only have, because some of them have a very high placement of the color work right around the neck, you know, a 4-ply yoked jumper that only has color work around the neckline, it doesn't add that much extra warmth. But underneath of a bigger, deep V
Mm.
open piece like this, it can really elevate that and make it look a little more elegant together, the two pieces.
Mm.
You can also pair it with like your great cardigans from your sets of hand knits, right? And even for some of us who have a penchant for colorwork vests or cabled vests to pull over top of things, why not pair it with a great lightweight sweater underneath?
Mm.
Kind of
Yep.
my belief here.
Yeah. Now, what else? Because you've got some really fantastic books there. What else have you got in your hot little pile?
So, in my hot little hands, I have one of my favorite publications of all time. So, Pom Pom Quarterly, of course, comes out four times a year. We'll get quarterly. That makes sense. Adoy.
It's in the title, though. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Ugh. Um, so apart from their anniversary edition from 2 or 3 years ago, which I do really love, the Noragon, which if we haven't been clear, we love Noragon. If you're just joining us for the first time, hello. Um, Noragon edited this version and contributed the cover sweater, which is really beautiful. It's actually quite easy to see in person. I know it's a little hard because of the slight sheen to the paper, but this is an incredible edition. It includes patterns. Get ready for this lineup. From Nora Gunn, Caitlin Hunter, Hoki Locatelli, Veronique Avery, Linda Marvang, Andrea Ragnall, Cerilia Rose, back from the dead apparently, Zandy Peters, Borecia Bennert, and Honor Adams. Um, for those of you who don't know and didn't get the joke about Cerilia, she is from one of the first wave of designers. She used to work with Stephen West directly. And she is a longtime friend of the one and only Diana Walla from Fancy Tiger Crafts. Cerilia really kicked off the open fronted cardigan movement with her Aran weight cardigan for Cascade called A Day. Should you ever wish to make it, there is a mistake in the pattern and it has never been corrected, so be careful. But Cerilia is, if you will, an OG, as the youth would say. She's an OG hand knit designer, and she contributed a really cool, fun sweater that would be great in any of our DK weight yarns called Nimue. Whoop, there we go. It's a great cropped, slightly boxy piece with that beautiful deep V neck. Again, what we're talking about here with layering pieces, this is a book for layering pieces and statement pieces. When you get Noragon at the helm of something, you're going to end up with diversity. Because Nora, you know, if anyone at home has ever watched Project Runway, you know, Nina Garcia doesn't like to be bored. Neither does Nora. Don't bore Nora. So Zandy Peters, who is doing fantastic things with Brioche. If you're not following her, she's a young designer, up and coming, doing some really cool stuff. This would be fantastic combining different sport weight yarns, which is what it's designed for. So you use a more high sheen or slightly fluffy one, and or you swap out. There's mesh and lace and ribbing and brioche in it. Really cool, called Sojourner. Willowwood by Caitlin Hunter is really neat. It will not show up because she knit it in black and, well, you will actually see some of it. So again, with that black and white theme and what I was talking about color work right around the neck, has a beautiful sleeve, slightly cropped shape, and giant bobbles. Speaking of, I'm just going to show this one because it's quite astounding to see. I have seen this sweater in person and it is actually quite beautiful. So if you're looking for both pockets and bobbles on one jersey, Osmunda is the pattern for you. Statement pieces are a big part of knitting. I would not call this trendy or fashionable, but it is really, really cool. Um, you know, Veronique's is going to be beautiful no matter what. Andrea Ragnall, you can always count on for classic, well-fitting designs. But one of the other ones that I think actually serves as a great layering piece, if you're someone who loves to layer, Linda Marvang has been in the game forever. And no one does a fit and flatter to different
Mm.
women's bodies better than Linda Marvang does. It's always going to have all over patterning. She's always going to have lots of shaping, and you're always going to be able to take different pieces on or off with her patterns to give you what you want. So if you're out there looking for old editions of Pom Pom that are worth investing in, the Noragon edited edition, definitely top of my list. Now, you may or may not know that I like Stephen West. Surprise. So one of the other pieces I brought today to show you guys is the Stephen West Knits Best Knits #2, which is his sweater book. Now, this might not be everyone's cup of Stephen West tea. I would actually highly recommend book #1 and book #3, which are both shawl-centric for the majority of knitters. However, West Knits Best Knits 3 is the sweater collection. It includes all of his then published sweaters, several accessories, and shorts. For all of you dying at home with nothing to knit, so it's time to make shorts. Now, what you get in here is a massive collection of different Stephen West patterns with all of the different modifier versions to make them larger or smaller, to use different weights of wool to hold things triple or double. You get a quadruple dose of Stephen's fantastic photography, a beautiful variety of models, and just an endless array of samples.
Is that the one that's got Penguino in it?
This one has Penguono in it. It has the Marled Magic sweater.
Yeah.
It has the Excuse Me sweater and dress. It has the Kangarorts and the Kangaroo rollover. As we know, Stephen likes to take a theme and run with it. So if you have ever thought about getting ready to make a Stephen West sweater, but you haven't had the wherewithal to really do it, this book is a great way to look at pretty much everything that's out there, including Enchanted Mesa, which also comes as a dress version. Now remember, Enchanted Mesa is based off of the Dotted Rays shawl, so the shaping might not be for everyone, but it is really, really cool. Last but not least, I have a bit of an oddity to show everyone. Now, I love a printed pattern. And as we all know, in this day and age, a lot of patterns are digital only. So what I actually tend to do is I make my own pattern books by picking out usually my favorite patterns from each year and having them bound together in one of these fun little folders with a clear plastic perspex on front. It really, really makes a great thing because it's easy to take the patterns around. So shockingly, I have a Nora Gone pattern in here. Her chain link tunic, which I highly recommend to anyone who is looking for a really cool, challenging knit. It would be fantastic in Little Bandit. I also put Landfall by Veronique Avery in here, which is a knee-length coat. I love to make big projects. I am not afraid of them, and Veronique Avery is definitely, I would say, kind of the undisputed queen of a coat again. If any of you have ever looked at Belfast or Landfall, you'll know what I mean. And then I actually have two Stephen West patterns in here from when I test knit them, the Excuse Me shawl and the Excuse Me hat, both of which I really love, and I've knit them time and time again. So this is actually just one of my suggestions for everyone. One of the things that I really recommend to people when you're getting ready to do something like this is, you know, pick out your favorite patterns from a year, pick out what you think you're going to make more than once, and get them printed and bound. It just makes everything so much easier when you're moving it around with you.
Well, and I don't know about you. Sorry, I'm just sitting here looking at some of my books as well. Because I print mine out all the time because I'm forever writing and scribbling notes over them. Forever. Mm-hmm. So in cookbooks, because I mean, obviously I love to cook as well, and I have a mountain of cookbooks. A number of years ago, I took out my best friend's advice, and he's a master at writing in cookbooks. So I will actually take those books now, and I actually hand annotate a recipe. So if there's something in there that I want to change, or I do slight different things in the recipe, I'll actually now get a pen out and hand annotate it. Because as far as I'm concerned, I mean, why? It makes sense, because if you keep referring back to it, that's the whole point of a recipe book, is that you're able to put those notes down. And I think what you're saying, I mean, you may not necessarily want to write on your favorite book, because you may change things each time you knit it. But if you print your pattern out and you've got it there, that you can go, right, this time I've knitted it, you can even write down the notes of the yarn that you're using, the gauge that you got on the swatch, any changes that you made with your needle sizes, any little quirks in the pattern. I mean, with
I
the
tend to leave
rainbow.
Post-its throughout them as well, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Post-it note person.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got to do that. I think you sort of, in there, for me, it's part of the evolution of the journey of the pattern. I mean, it's, you know, as we've said so many times, the pattern is a guide, isn't it? It's a guide as opposed to a hard and fast sort of rule of this is how it's supposed to be.
No, completely.
So I'm just going to show this one while you're having a look at that. This is
yes, I'm just reading a question that I saw here.
No, that's right. This one's called Knitting Little Luxuries. Now, this one's been around. This is an interweave book from 2006, so I've had it a number of years. But I wanted to show this to you guys. It's Louisa Harding, and it's actually the one that contains a pair of mittens that I wear all the time, fingerless mitts. And I love it because it's very, very difficult often to find fingerless mitts. They're called Victorian fingerless mitts. Ooh, where are they? There they are there. Now, what I love about these is that they're actually seamed. And I've actually probably knitted mine that look, oopsie, this jolly camera, I should get the hang of it by now. Mine probably look more like that when I knit them. But what I love about them is that you can completely modify. And that's what I was saying about a pattern, is that you can have complete modifications. I mean, I've knitted them so they look exactly like that. I've knitted them and I've changed the weights. I've taken the picot edging on and off, the bind off and the bind on. I've played around with colour, but what I love is just the basic construction. And she's gone and used a twisted rib cuff. Where's the cuff there? And all the way through. But it's books like this that I just keep going back to again and again and again. The other thing in this book, actually, funnily enough, and it's you don't need to always have. So she's got this neat little purse, right? But the knitted flowers that are on that purse, I have knitted those flowers. In fact, have I got them one sitting out here with those flowers on it? I've knitted those flowers so many times. Just a neat little embellishment. It's amazing when you find just those little quirks of things that you just love.
You know, if you're looking for a great, not to plug myself, everyone, but if you're looking for a great fingerless mitt pattern, I actually have one on my Ravelry designs that I've come up with called Sister Mine. It's actually based off of my sister's wedding ring. Her wedding ring has a Celtic embellishment on it, and so I designed a cable pattern that matches her ring for her birthday a few years ago. So those are on my Ravelry. And if anyone is trying to find me on Ravelry or Instagram, it's really easy. I'm EBE, Echo Bravo Echo, and then the word forever, everywhere, because I came up with the handle a long time ago, and I've just stuck with it. Now, don't be confused. If you're on Twitter, there is an EBE forever. I have not used Twitter in nearly 4 years after getting into a bit of a fight with another person in the knitwear community, and I am one of those people, if you know me well, you know I just go, nope, and I'm done with something forever. So I did just delete Twitter, and I've not gone back.
See, I don't use the Twitter either.
Oh, I loved the Twitter. I was a very early adopter. I actually had a number. That's how long ago I joined Twitter when I first
Oh, no, yes. No, I've never been very, well, see, as you know, I was a late bloomer with social media. So, no, Lynette's just asking, the book is called, oh, there we go, Knitting Little Luxuries. I do know a number of libraries, because Interweave Press, I don't think is around any longer, is it?
I don't think so.
No, there you go.
No.
She off the side.
Deb off camera has the answers, as
usual. Yeah, it's. But I do know a number of libraries carry this book, and it's one that I just absolutely adore. The other one I just wanted to quickly show you too, and I've seen this one in libraries as well. This was given to me as a gift. I don't know how old it is, but there we go. It's called Modern Knits Vintage Style. You've seen this one?
I have seen that one. I've seen several garments made from that book, and I have seen some fantastic fits out of it.
Yeah, so the interesting thing for me with this book, obviously, is that a lot of the sizings in here don't necessarily work But what I love about this book is how they've gone around doing what they've done. So what they've gone and done is they've gone and taken, oh, thank you, Renly, what is essentially a vintage pattern, and then they've gone and given it a modern update and twist.
Very cool.
Yeah, and there are some really interesting, just some very, very interesting thoughts and ways that they've gone and done it. So there's another one there. So, I'm going to have to let the dog out. There's excitement at the fence. You do your next book and we'll keep talking. I'll let the idiots out.
So I actually don't have my next book with me, everyone, because when I managed to move from North America to here, I brought all of the pieces and yarn for a sweater, and I assumed I brought the book with me, but I didn't. So I'm actually going to recommend the other capsule book, which is capsule number 2 by Little Dogs in the Background, by Michelle Wang. So it is also published by Brooklyn Tweed. They have 3 full books in total, which I have all 3 of them. Woolens, which is also great. Capsule 1, which is Olga Barrett-Califan. And of course, last but not least, Michelle Wang's capsule. So this is the Radmere cardigan. I have the back of it done. I've actually finished another front and started another front here in quarantine somehow, because I've only cast on the ribbing and I've not done any of the really complex cables. For any of you who are familiar with Michelle Wang, you will recognize her signature all over cable work. She is one of the masters of hyper intricate cables used repetitively across a garment to make a whole field of texture. It works up really well in a DK weight yarn. This is not actually made in Shelter. I have substituted the yarn here. And what you can see is her cables do tend, interestingly, where with a lot of designers you get a very 3-dimensional popped cable. Michelle Wang's cables tend to lay flatter on the garment and create more of a cohesive fabric than they do an embellishment, which is a really interesting difference for me, I find, from her versus other cabled knitwear designers. Where if you're dealing with someone more like Thea Coleman, who does beautiful work, you're going to see a very 3-dimensional graphic cable from Thea Coleman. Where with Michelle, what you're going to get is a fabric that from a distance looks textured and luxurious, and from up close is an absolute masterwork.
It's a work of art
and intricacy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of her signature thing. And she is very skilled at using the negative space in cables. So where you see the large sections of purling is oftentimes created by abutting 2 different purling against each other.
Yeah.
Oh, Julie, I am EBE forever on Ravelry. I read June Hemmons Hyatt.
Good job, Jill.
So I actually don't agree with June Hemmons Hyatt, Sylvia, just as a side note. Fisherman's Rib and Brioche are not the same thing. It is a lot more work, actually, to do the method that she is discussing there. I would say Stephen does use the slip-on yarn over method, which was pioneered by Nancy Marchant, who is kind of the queen of brioche, if you will. There are few people in this world of knitting that I would trust more than Nancy Marchant as far as being an expert in her area. Her 3 books, Tuck Stitches, Knitting Fresh Brioche, and Brioche Lace, are inarguably the master works of modern brioche knitting. And her website, Nancy Marchant Knitting, has a large number of great free resources as well about brioche, including basic tutorials about stitch patterns and such. I would highly recommend looking at her website if you're ever in an issue. Oh, Cat.
The cat's in your house, dogs in mine, yeah.
Cat has arrived. She'll be on to the table momentarily. Yep, there she goes. It's nothing is happening. There's just a cat on the table, everyone. Which I think is a frequent danger for many knitters. Cat on the table. Let's all be honest here. So yes, I would definitely recommend going with Nancy Marchand's instructions for brioche because that is the method that Stephen West follows. Nancy lives in Amsterdam and works very closely with the team at Stephen and Penelope, the store that he co-owns with Malia Johnson. So I would highly recommend sticking it out with her.
So now Margot wants you to stand up so she can see the yes shoe.
Oh, ta-da! Ooh. So this is it. It's a square oversight. I'm going to have to do like an awkward half squatting situation. My table's a little close. It is just kind of a very dramatic piece, and it has a really interesting back of neck detail. Not sure how good of a sight that was. You're welcome, everyone. But yes, I'm a big fan overall of this garment. It's a really relaxed, comfortable piece. It's a great layering piece. It goes really well over a blouse and many other things. Now, I see we have another brioche comment that's come in.
It's interesting though what Daryl was saying. Daryl was saying though with this, she's saying that this is the beautiful thing though with this. So Daryl is saying she disagrees with these, and there are two different stitches that produce the same result. She finds two-color fisherman's rib much easier to achieve than brioche. But this is the really nice thing, is that you just do whatever works for you.
Yeah, completely. The one warning
on the table.
Yeah, the cat is still there. The one warning, and if I agree with what you're saying, Nancy does point out that it's two different. Hello, cat. Will you sit with me for a minute? No, okay. Don't go back on the table though. Behave yourself for 2 seconds. If you're doing something like Stephen West's patterns in brioche, or if you're attempting to do anything other a straight swath of brioche, the reason to not use the double fisherman's rib method, which is a different stitch, is that it does not give you the ability to do the same styles of increases, does not give you the same ability to build shapes quite the same way that you do with the yarn over method of brioche that Nancy has kind of pioneered and brought forward for everyone. And you know, if you're looking again at someone who's kind of taken a lot of Nancy's techniques and moved them in a slightly different direction, Leslie Ann Robinson of Knit Graffiti, who has done some truly incredible work in the brioche design field. Her Rebel 2 shawl comes to mind, the Pop Sizzle Cardi, all great examples of using the more modern brioche methods with the yarn over stitch. To accomplish different things, because you can do brioche cabling, you can do rapid increases and decreases. The two-color, like fisherman's rib, is not something I enjoy to knit personally. Tuck stitches and brioche are highly related, but not quite the same, which is what it says in the beginning of the tuck stitch book from Nancy Marchand. And I am not a huge fan of tuck stitches, where I am a huge fan of brioche, but that's knitting into the row below.
Yeah,
it depends on how you knit as well. Like a lot of continental knitters, I've been told, prefer the fisherman's rib method, the two-color fisherman's rib, where I knit hybrid. So I kind of don't care. But you know,
yeah, horses for courses. Now, if someone did ask what was getting my dogs upset. It was we lived down a right of way, and it was the landlord of the house in front who. Let's put it this way, my dogs are excellent judges of character. Well, I think that's us for today. Now, I'm just going to remind everybody, tomorrow is Mother's Day, and I have made the executive decision that I'm actually going to take a day off tomorrow. So there will be no... I know. I'm going to have a day off, so there will be no quarantine diaries tomorrow. I am working, hopefully, fingers crossed, if it all goes well, I will be joined by Alia Bland, aka the Little Bee, on Monday, which will be loads of fun.
Cool.
And I'm also talking pardon?
I said very cool.
It is very cool. I'm really looking forward to that. And if it doesn't work Monday, will be Monday or Tuesday. So definitely looking to talk to her next week. And I've also been talking to Sandra McNair from Yarn Hawke's Bay as well to talk about charity knitting later on in the week. And also next week is a huge week as well, because we'll find out when we start getting a little bit more freedom back too on Monday. So that is something to look forward to. But until then, for all the mums out there, have a wonderful Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
And I think you and I will see. We'll definitely be around. Well, you and I will be back together next weekend.
Yeah.
You'll see us again here for Pajama Party next Saturday. But until then, have a great. Oh, Jeanette's saying, what's the name of Ethan's top? Yishu by
Yishu, Michelle Wang.
by
So
Michelle Wang.
Yishu, and it's Michelle Wang, and she is Mishi X22 on Ravelry. Wow. She was one of my first Ravelry friends, so I've got that locked in the memory bank.
There you go. All right, everyone, you have a great weekend, and I
Have a
will see
great
you
one.
all again on Monday. Bye.